Today, we're jumping right into something pretty intense brewing around 50 Cent.
Yeah, specifically looking at his time in Houston and, well, the fallout.
Exactly. We're working off a breakdown from The Petty Show on YouTube, and it's laying out some, frankly, serious claims about threats, tensions, mainly involving Jay Prince and people connected to Supreme McGriff.
It all seems to stem from 50 moving down there.
Right. So what we want to do today is unpack all of this for you. Try to understand what's really being alleged, beneath the headlines.
Our goal really is to look at these claims, figure out the context why this matters, and identify who the key players are and maybe what's motivating them.
Get past the noise a bit.
Yeah, get a clear picture of the dynamics here.
Okay, so let's start with the move itself. 50 Cent lands in Houston. Publicly, he's talking about what? Random acts of kindness he saw?
Mm-hmm. And the lower taxes in Texas, which, let's be real, is always a factor.
Sure. But it sounds like there were some unwritten rules he maybe didn't follow, or chose not to follow.
That seems to be the core of it. Houston, as this analysis points out, it kind of has this expectation. When big names, especially artists, move in, they're expected to check in.
Check in with who?
With the established local power figures. And in Houston, that figure is consistently named as Jay Prince.
Okay, so it's like paying respects or something more.
Well, it's framed as acknowledging the local structure, yeah. But, it ensures the established figures kind of keep their influence, maybe even benefit. It can definitely come across as, well, exploitative.
And 50 Cent just wasn't having it.
Seems like it. He apparently made it clear he operates on his own terms, doesn't owe anyone anything, just refused to do the whole check-in thing.
Which you can imagine didn't go down well, especially since he wasn't just passing through, right? He had big plans for Houston.
Huge plans. The Petty Show breakdown mentions, a $20 million film studio, alcohol brands, getting involved in the community.
Wow, so he was really trying to build something significant there.
Exactly. Right in Jay Prince's backyard, essentially, without playing by the local rules. So you can see how that might be seen as more than just disrespect. It's about control, influence.
Yeah, stepping on toes, and this check-in thing. The analysis brings up some worrying examples, doesn't it? Like Takeoff.
Yeah, Takeoff, Jacob the Jeweler, even XXXTentacion. The source claims they did check in, but still ran into major problems later.
So that really backs up 50's view then, maybe. That it's not about respect, it's more like
extortion. Yeah, that seems to be his perspective based on the analysis. Given his own history, he's probably very wary of relying on others for safety or permission.
Makes sense. And then he just left Houston, kind of quietly.
Pretty much ended up relocating to Shreveport, Louisiana. Which really tells you something, doesn't it?
It does, because didn't Houston give him a 50 Cent day? The mayor seemed on board, the community too?
Publicly, yes. Lots of support. But behind the scenes, this YouTube source says Jay Prince was, quote, fuming.
Fuming, okay.
And 50 himself later kind of hinted that Houston didn't embrace him like he thought it would. So yeah, this friction with Prince seems like a major factor.
But then the story gets even more complicated because the name Supreme McGriff comes up. And their history is legendary, almost.
Oh, absolutely. That's where things get really deep. The Petty Show piece reminds us, about the 2000 shooting. 50 shot 9 times.
And the general belief or accusation has always been that Supreme McGriff's crew was involved.
Right. That's not just a side note. It's fundamental to understanding their whole dynamic.
And 50 didn't exactly keep quiet about it afterwards. That track, Ghetto Quaron.
Yeah, he named names. Supreme, others, and in street culture, that's snitching, basically. A huge violation of the code.
Carries serious weight.
Definitely. And look at how their paths diverged after that. 50 survives, blows up, becomes this global icon, even uses the shooting as part of his, tough persona.
While Supreme ends up in prison.
Right. But notably, Supreme maintained this reputation for never cooperating with authorities, never snitching himself. Which, earned him a certain kind of respect in some circles. It's a stark contrast.
Okay, so you have that really heavy backstory. Then Irv Gotti enters the picture. How does he fit in?
Well, according to the analysis, Irv Gotti and Supreme McGriff were extremely close, like family. Irv apparently really supported Supreme through his legal issues, serious loyalty there.
And 50 Cent, of course, has his own long, bitter history with Irv Gotti and Murder, Inc.
Exactly. So, fast forward. Irv Gotti passes away recently.
Right, after a stroke.
And 50 Cent posts some things online that were Controversial, to say the least. There was that picture with a hookah next to it, like a fake gravestone for Irv.
Yeah, that caused a stir. And didn't he say something earlier about wanting Irv to live to see his new TV shows succeed? Kind of rubbing it in?
Mm-hmm. So given the closeness between Irv and Supreme, these posts weren't just seen as jabs at Irv.
They were seen as disrespecting Supreme too, through Irv.
That's the interpretation presented. And Supreme McGriff's son, Supreme Jr., he reacted pretty strongly online, called 50 a clown, said he'd bring that same energy back at him.
So basically, dissing Irv was like dissing Supreme by proxy, which just pours gasoline on the fire, right?
Absolutely. Adds another layer of serious tension onto that existing history.
Okay, so how does all this history and tension, how does it connect to this alleged plot against 50? What's the actual claim?
Right, so the analysis points to some of 50's own online posts first. Kind of cryptic stuff, hinting about enemies, threats.
Standard 50-cent trolling, maybe? Or more?
Well, the core allegation, the really serious part, is that 50 supposedly leaked information he obtained. Information about alleged conversations happening between people in Jay Prince's camp and Supreme McGriff Jr.
Conversations about what?
About a plan to set 50 up, or get him out the way, or at least put serious pressure on him. That's the claim being discussed.
Wow, okay, that's heavy. And 50 leaked this.
That's the allegation presented in the source material, yeah. And he wasn't subtle about it either. Apparently started publicly trolling Jay Prince online around the same time.
Okay. And then Rick Ross gets pulled into this somehow. How?
Well, everyone knows the beef between 50 and Rick Ross goes way, way back. It's another long-standing feud.
Right.
So the analysis notes that Rick Ross has recently been seen hanging out with people associated with Supreme McGriff's camp.
Okay. Could be a coincidence. Or
50 Cent apparently doesn't see it that way. The interpretation is that he views this as a deliberate alliance forming against him. Like Ross linking up with them is sending a message directly to 50.
And the suggestion is this link-up might even be part of that alleged plot.
That's the deeper implication discussed, yeah. That it's not just optics, it's potentially part of a coordinated effort fueled by all these overlapping beefs and disrespect issues.
Man, it's like a tangled web of old conflicts and new alleged plots.
It really is. And to kind of understand the potential seriousness, you kind of have to look at Jay Prince's background as presented in the analysis.
What does it say about him?
Well, it portrays him as someone with like really deep roots and influence way beyond just music.
Okay, like what?
It brings up allegations about involvement in drug trafficking back in the late 80s, rumored connections from Mexico to various U.S. cities, even supposed ties to Larry Hoover and the Gangster Disciples, setting up a drug pipeline.
Whoa, okay, so serious allegations about his past.
Very serious. And then Rap-A-Lot Records emerges. The analysis mentions speculation that maybe it wasn't just a record label, potentially, a front for laundering money from other activities.
And there was a DEA investigation.
Yeah, into JPR Records and Rap-A-Lot back then. But the analysis highlights that it was suddenly dropped, for reasons that aren't clear.
Implying he has some serious clout or connections.
That's the suggestion. That maybe 50 Cent, by ignoring the Houston rules and stirring things up, is messing with someone who's allegedly wielded significant off-the-books power for decades.
And the idea is Jay Prince might want to make an example out of him for disrespecting the whole check-in thing.
That definitely fits the narrative being presented, yeah. A way to reinforce that local hierarchy and the consequences of ignoring it.
Okay, so if we try to boil it all down, what are the potential drivers here? What's really at stake?
Well, on one level, you've got basic ego clashes, right?
Yeah.
Perceived disrespect, not following the rules.
Sure.
It's about control. Control of territory, influence in the industry, maybe even other ventures.
Okay.
Then you layer on these really personal, long-running grudges. Loyalty comes into play, loyalty to people like Irv Gotti, which then links back to Supreme.
Right.
And then, underneath all that, there's the possibility, based on the history and these allegations about Prince, of potentially much more serious threats. Stuff rooted in things way beyond music feuds.
So let's recap for everyone listening. We've got these claims of a potential plot against 50 Cent.
Right. Allegedly sparked by him moving to Houston, refusing to check in with Jay Prince.
Which then stirs up old beef with Supreme McGriff's circle, made worse by 50's post after Irv Gotti died.
And then there's the perception of new alliances forming against him, possibly involving Rick Ross.
All underpinned by Jay Prince's alleged deep-rooted influence and history, suggesting this could be more than just another rap beef.
Exactly. Now, it's really important for you, the listener, to keep in mind, these are allegations. They're interpretations based on public statements, online activity, and this specific YouTube analysis we're discussing.
Definitely speculative in nature.
But
Yeah.
the people involved are real. Their histories are documented, the events referenced, like the shooting, they're serious. So the claims carry a certain weight because of who's involved.
Yeah, it really shines a light on the complex and sometimes dangerous intersections of music, power, business, and street culture.
Absolutely.
And for you listening, trying to get knowledgeable quickly and see different angles, this whole situation is a case study, isn't it, in those hidden power dynamics? So maybe the final thought to leave you with is, considering everything we've unpacked, what does the situation really tell us about how power works in entertainment and how much these old conflicts still simmer? And maybe when you see the next public feud blow up online, what deeper currents should you maybe consider looking for beneath the surface drama?
Definitely something to think about.